Hey, and welcome to one more episode of RevivalFlix, where we try to find some old movies, some classic movies, some missed movies, even or weird ones. I personally love them, but with today's lens, today's perspective, since we're not being, granted with a lot of great productions nowadays. It's really hard for a great movie to come out. So we need to try to find some old ones that is maybe that are worth watching, right? And today, actually, I have a surprise because this was totally unexpected. I was, just zapping around on YouTube and so on. So my feed now, it's kind of like contaminated with those clips, like short clips or maybe not so short, but anyway. Content, like focus on movies, right? Because I'm researching a bit of stuff and so on, and always spending some time on that. So my YouTube feed now it's getting a bit contaminated by that. But there was one video that I thought the title was really interesting. I'm not sure if it's true or not. You guys can also research a bit, but it's supposed to be like the six perfect movies from Tarantino. So from the 80s, based on the 80s, not like ever, right? But only from the 80s, because he says, he says that maybe the 80s didn't produce so much good movies and so on, but he kind of listed, I mean, this channel listed six movies that, according to it, Tarantino thinks they're perfect, right? So actually, one of them I had watched already, but the other five not, and most of them I hadn't even heard about it. So it's going to be interesting. So I just picked one for now. Maybe I'll do one or another, at some other time. But I started with one that it really intrigued me, which is Manhunter. So I had never heard about this movie, and it's actually supposed to be like the first version from Silence of the Lambs. So that instantly convinced me that I should do a video about this movie, even if it came out to be, like not so great and so on. I'm not gonna spoil it up until now to say if that's the case or not. But let's start. Yeah, let's start with some curiosities about this movie. So one of the main difference that we can notice in this version of the film is that the FBI agent that, of course, everybody knows that in Silence of the Lambs was played by Jodie Foster. I wouldn't say that that was the movie that got her famous. I think she was famous already. I think Contact. She made Contact. No, not Contact. Yeah, I think Contact. Yeah. Before that, if I'm not mistaken, if anyone knows that if that's not true, please leave a comment in the video. But anyway, I think maybe this Silence of the Lambs, I think, kind of like consolidated her as a great actress, right? So, and this one is played by a man, the FBI agent. So that's the first thing that you notice about the difference about this thing about this film. But we're going to talk about other differences too. There are a lot of differences. Anyway, in the IMDb rating, it was rated as 7.8. So as I mean, I was already inclined, like um, to do a video about this film. But when I saw the rating, like 7.8, I thought, wow, yeah, it must really be worth it, right? Especially, like being backed up by Tarantino and so on. I mean, I also love Tarantino for sure. People that is that are gonna watch uh, this channel probably they're also fans of Tarantino. But anyway, 7.8, that already impressed me, and that of course created my expectations high. Set my expectations high. Then I noticed another another funny fact about it, which was like a 15 million budget, but only 8 million revenue. So it was kind of like a flop, but maybe not worldwide. Worldwide, maybe it broke even. But anyway, in the U.S., I think it was probably considered like a as a flop. So it was directed by Michael Mann. I also hadn't heard about him, but later, I mean, researching IMDb and so on, yeah, he did a bunch of good movies. I'm going to just read some of them out: Collateral, Ali, The Insider, Heat, The Last of the Mohicans, Thief. Okay, so Thief was the other one of the other films that was in that video that I talked about, and that it says like, oh, okay, so six perfect movies, right, from the 80s. So Thief, I also hadn't heard about this film. Maybe this one I'll also do a video about it. But if anyone, goes maybe like ahead of me and does a video about it, please post it on the comments here. That should be fun. But anyway, I wasn't familiar with this director. Let's explore more details that I found out especially in IMDb, and also, of course, watching the film. So what I find funny, like watching these old movies, or maybe not so old movies. I mean, 80s. I don't consider it so old. But anyway, you sometimes you get a chance to see like great actors, uh, like in their initial stages of their careers. So I noticed like three familiar faces. I mean, the main character for me wasn't a familiar faces, but uh, I wouldn't be surprised if he did like a bunch of movies. I didn't go after the movies that he had done. Maybe I'll even do that still. Now it got me curious. But anyway, I noticed three very familiar faces. I mean, they're not like thought about, like main characters, actors. Most of the time, they're like in a supporting roles, but they're really good. And in this movie, I should say that they were also good. I didn't like the main character. That's why I didn't also, you know, research what he had done and so on. I thought his acting, I think it lacked a bit of quality. I cannot blame, like the actor. Maybe it was like the director. Maybe it was, maybe someone who helped, directing uh, the actors and so on. We cannot blame, like fully the actor, but in my point of view, uh, more could be done with his character, or maybe with his acting. Not with his character, maybe with his acting. It didn't convince me very much of what actually the script was trying to, um, persuade us to believe. How let's say it, very like quote unquote complex character he could have been. Like having having problems with his work. The method that he uses and so on. So I felt that it needed kind of like a deeper, a deeper, more. I'm not even sure how to say it, but he could have had experimented more. Maybe making an acting lab or whatever. Because I mean, I don't remember if Jodie Foster had that same trait in Silence of the Lambs, but here he's supposed to be like kind of like a workaholic and use like a controversial method, that messes up with his head and so on. So it it would take, like a very skillful actor to pull that off, I would say. But anyway, let's talk about the other familiar faces in it. I mean, not the other familiar faces, the familiar faces. So Dennis Farina, Frankie Faison, and Chris Elliott. So by name, I didn't know the name of these actors, but for sure everyone has seen already a movie with them in it. Not, again, not as a main character, but strong supporting roles. So let's start with Dennis Farina. So Dennis Farina, some of his roles that he played. So Snatch, Saving Private Ryan, Get Shorty. I remember him in Get Shorty. I don't remember him in Snatch actually. I could see him in Saving Private Ryan, but I mean by memory I really don't remember him. But Midnight Run, I do remember him. That's a very cool movie. you haven't had a chance to see it, to watch it yet, Midnight Run, you can watch it for sure. Robert De Niro starring in it. It's a fun movie. It's a fun movie. I for sure recommend this. I'm probably not gonna do a video about it, but I straightforward would recommend it. But anyway, so let's go to Frankie Faison. So he's also in many secondary roles. He's a very charismatic dude, a very charismatic actor. But he also always kind of like try to play kind of like a tough guy, like not a tough guy like fighting and so on, but maybe like a tough law enforcement type. Normally he's like a police, a detective, a lieutenant, a judge, or whatever. So yeah, I remember him in the Wire. I do remember him there. Hannibal. Actually, he was in Hannibal, and he was also in Silence of the Lambs. I didn't remember him in Silence of the Lambs, but that's funny actually. But so he was in this first version of Silence of the Lambs, and which is Manhunter, and also in the Silence of the Lambs. So I thought that was really curious. But I from the name of the characters, either they changed the name of the characters or he played the same role. I'm gonna have to watch Silence of the Lambs again just to check that out. But anyway, yeah, Silence of the Lambs and Hannibal, he was in it. The Money Pit, I remember that movie, but I don't remember him there. Also a very very funny movie with Tom Hanks. Also worth it. I mean, nothing spectacular, but like a feel good movie. And then Chris Elliott. So this guy is actually I like this guy. So he's kind of like, he always plays kind of like a weird guy, but here in this film he was like maybe 2 minutes and one line, in the movie. So that was funny. So he also played Groundhog Day. I remember him there for sure. There's something about Mary for sure. I remember him there. So he was that weirdo and so on, ex-boyfriend from Mary, and Everybody Loves Raymond. I think only in some parts, some episodes he was there, and I think he came from SNL. I vaguely remember him in SNL, but anyway, it was in IMDb. So yeah, let's let's believe it for sure. Yeah, let's jump into the review of the film itself. So I'll probably start off with the positive notes. So what really stood out to me was the villain in the film. So I thought he was very very creepy, very weird, disturbing, sinister. I think he was not only a good actor, but he also was uh, very well directed within the movie. Uh, Doing some uncomfortable scenes. He was convincing. He was convincing. For me, it was like the highlight of the film. So we also had a few action sequences. They were okay to good. I mean, I would disagree with Tarantino, saying this is a perfect movie. I wouldn't say that. Again, I was surprised. Even I wouldn't say it's a 7.8. Maybe for me, in my taste, maybe a 7.5. I would give this movie. But anyway, um, there were some good action scenes. There was a touch of violence. That touch of violence that maybe resonates with Tarantino's style. So maybe that's where the connection is with Tarantino. That part actually I like, but it was kind of scarce in the movie. It wasn't there weren't any that like major shocking scenes. I wouldn't say that, but there were some good scenes, good sequences, good scenes. Um, the story also. I mean, it's not like you can think of this movie as a separate movie from Silence of the Lambs. In other words, I mean, when we watch right remakes and so on, we think, oh, okay, so maybe it follows a sequence or has like a scene that maybe it's copied even like but like just with other actors and so on. So no, this one, silent I should say Silence of the Lambs did a totally different job than this film did. you know so I'm not saying that this one is bad. I'm just saying that Silence of the Lambs is kind of like really, really good. What they did there, I remember, like some takes there with the flashlights and everything. That man, that was like groundbreaking, maybe even I would say. And all that sequence, like introducing, Hannibal and so on, in Silence of the Lambs, that was great. I mean, the actor is escaping my name now. It shouldn't, but it's escaping my name. But anyway, he's I mean, he's a very talented actor. That's like a solid actor, right? So one of the main difference that I noticed in the between the two films, I mean, aside from the structure, I mean, the structure is kind of like similar. The films, the scenes, and so on, very different, very different. One doesn't have nothing to do with the other. But one thing that I noticed that was kind of like important for me, I think that Hannibal Lecter was kind of like underexplored in Manhunter. He played like a very tangential role, I would say. Very few parts that he was there. He wasn't like as scary or maybe as sinister or maybe as you know it didn't pull that kind of image that we created in Silence of the Lambs. So this was the first observation. I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm just saying that it's different, right? Um, so yeah, I would say that would be the main difference. The other structure, I would say is kind of like similar, except that I think I think in some cases, um, Silence of the Lambs took to another level the cruelness, like uh, the weirdness, it took to another level. I mean, this one has some good uncomfortable moments, but Silence of the Lambs, I mean, what they did with that film there, it's like it's tough for another film to compare with. Even their sequences, right? I don't remember, any any of my friends or any people that watch movies saying, "Oh, okay, oh, I liked very much, the sequence and so on from Silence of the Lambs." No, Silence of the Lambs was the best in those sequences, right? So yeah. So one thing that I need to also warn about is like the very slow pace that the film starts with, especially in the beginning, right? Until things get rolling and so on, it takes a while. So you get the impression that it's not convincing you so much, about the how complex the character is, as I mentioned before. But give a little bit of a chance, a little bit of a time, and the supporting actors. I think they make up also for maybe even lack of experience, for the main character, for the main actor. Yeah, we don't know actually, what goes on in the behind the scenes and so on. But yeah, I would just warn about the slow pace. Be prepared for that. But other than that, if you're a Silence of the Lambs movie fan, for sure, I would watch it for sure. It won't be like, don't expect this like to be better, right? But expect to be like, well, let's see how really difficult was Silence of the Lamb to be, like crafted, So they did an attempt first, and this is what came out of, not bad, not bad, but it's a difficult movie to see, especially nowadays, right, where it has like some controversial topics and so on. Yeah, I think watching this movie, you even give more value of what Silence of the Lambs became, choosing those actors, choosing Jodie Foster as a woman as an FBI agent, and the Hannibal character. That was, I mean, that actor. It's I even can't describe him, but he doesn't even need, like to no one to defend him. But anyway, yeah, I would watch this movie even if you're not a fan of Silence of the Lambs. I mean, if you didn't watch Silence of the Lambs, um, it would be fun even for you to watch this one and then afterwards watch Silence of the Lambs. Um, I can guarantee you're not gonna be under the impression of watching the same film. And if you do that, if you're one of the the few people on Earth that didn't watch Silence of the Lambs, do that and please leave a comment here, to tell what was your reaction. Maybe you can even film your reaction, right? Your review afterwards. After you watch this one, and then right after you watch Silence of the Lambs, it would be funny if you did kind of like a review, like a before and after, whatever, video. That would be fun. Maybe I can even incorporate in a follow up video. Who knows? Yeah. Well, that's basically it for this one. I'm also going to leave in the description the video where it says it talks about the six perfect films in Tarantino's point of view from the 80s. I mean, if anyone disputes that, please leave also a comment, and I'll try to watch that other one, Thief, and yeah, see you in the next one for sure.